Hi, and welcome to Millionaire Mondays. Well, today we follow on from last week's story in this book, Great by Choice. Last week I went through the story of Roald Amundsen and Robert Scott and the two different approaches that those leaders had towards reaching the South Pole. Now, if you haven't read the story or you haven't heard it before, you might want to circle back to last week's episode and just listen to the story, because what I have to talk about now is going to be really relevant. So in order to dive into this, let's first understand what a 10xer is. A 10xer is an individual or a company that operates at 10 times the productivity and often profitability than the rest of the industry average. So if you're a real estate agent, it's an agent that does 10 times or more the industry average. Now, those individuals have certain characteristics and attributes that see them do that consistently year in, year out. Some of the attributes that those agents have include what was in that book, Great by Choice: Fanastic Discipline, Empirical Creativity, Productive Paranoia, and a level 5 ambition. And that's what we want to unpack here today. So let's have a look at Fanastic Discipline. In last week's story, I spoke about a 20-mile march, in that Roald Amundsen would march with his crew 20 miles every day, regardless of the weather. So whether it was bright sunshine and perfect conditions for marching, and he could possibly have done 50 miles on the day, he chose to do 20, or whether it was snow, sleet, terrible conditions, they would still do 20 miles every single day. So let's tap into that a bit. You see, these 10x's that have Fanastic Discipline built into their regimen set performance benchmarks so that they can drive consistent progress. Not only do they set goals for the year, but they set shorter term objectives for each quarter, and even shorter than that for each week, down to the activities that they're going to do every single day. Someone with Fanastic Discipline also doesn't accept any excuses. It doesn't matter that there are other circumstances around them that might be contributing to them not being able to fully execute their tasks. They just get on and do it anyway. Because achieving consistent performance is about having an upper bound and a lower bound. In other words, how much at an absolute max can you do a day? Let's take appointments in a day, the absolute max, and what the minimum standard is. And where we want to be pitching ourselves is somewhere in the middle of that particular bound. You see, these 10x's that have Fanastic Discipline will tell you that missing a 20-mile march, i.e. not doing their tasks for that day, that week, is just not okay. It's not to say that 10x's have a perfect record. It's just that they have a near perfect record, because they don't accept any of their own excuses. Financial market crashes, customers, earthquakes, global competition, pandemics, technological change, mostly all of those elements are out of your control. But a 20-mile march, that Fanastic Discipline of executing the tasks that you've set for yourself every day, is inside of your control and helps to keep you focused and moving forward despite the chaos that may be going on around you. So what does a 20-mile march have, and what should your Fanastic Discipline program have built into it? You should have clear performance markers. Know exactly where it is you're going and tick those boxes when you get there. Not just the result boxes, but tick the activity boxes along the way. If the result is to get 10 mandates within the next month, you would need to set performance markers of what it takes to get just one mandate, and make sure that you do those activities and tick those boxes along the way. You would impose self-imposed constraints in place, not to push yourself too far and certainly not too low in your execution. In other words, what is your upper bound and what is your lower bound, and are you setting your performance markers somewhere inside of that range? The march has to be specific to you. The march, i.e. what you do. What is your objective? Is it commission? Is it mandates? Is it listings? Is it ... It may be different for everybody that's listening to this. That's why no one can write the script for you. But that 20-mile march, the steps you take, literally, in the activities that you do, need to relate to the objective that you want to achieve. So make sure that it's specific to you. It's largely within your control to achieve, and you need to know that. There might be circumstances around you, there might be things thrown at you. We'll talk about a black swan event in just a second. But ultimately, these elements are things that are inside of your control. A 20-mile march, just like your goals and objectives, should have a time frame long enough to manage, yet short enough to have teeth. You don't want to be setting your goals and objectives too far ahead, because sometimes we lose sight of it because it seems so unachievable so far down the line. But breaking that down into a 12-week year, maybe you want to think along those lines. What do I need to do within the next 12 weeks to significantly change my business? And then set that goal and the performance markers, i.e. the activities to get there, for those 12 weeks. And you'll find that that becomes a lot more achievable than having this long range, wildly important goal. The only way that this 20-mile march actually happens and works is when it's set by you. It has to come from within. It has to be you that sets your objectives, sets your goals, and puts those performance markers in place. So, Fanastic Discipline is a 20-mile march approach. It's an objective you set not too far in the future, but long enough stretched to be able to achieve a significant goal or objective. You're putting performance markers in place to get there, and then every day you have a consistent approach and you're marching those 20 miles worth of your activities to get to your goal or objective. The second characteristic that 10Xs have is something called empirical creativity. You see, empirical creativity is measured innovation. Empirical, measured, creativity, innovation, something new. In real estate, it's fair to say that this industry has evolved over a period of time and is continuing to evolve as technology develops and helps create tech-enabled agents. But to what extent is it that we need to adopt new technologies, new ways of working, and new ways of engaging our customer? Well, the way to do that is to have a measured approach. But it's important that we do change. You see, if we just continue to do things the way we always did them, what we'll get is the results we always got. And probably worse, those results will dissipate over a period of time. You see, where greatness is achieved is where Fanastic Discipline meets empirical creativity. 10Xs first fire bullets and then cannonballs. If you think of two ships in the olden days going to war against each other, two wooden pirate ships maybe, they would first attempt to fire a few shots to see where they landed. Then they'd calibrate, then they'd fire a few more, then they'd calibrate. And when they knew that they had the mark of their target, they would load it with a cannonball and absolutely hammer it with everything they had. Because cannonballs are expensive, just like new marketing ideas, new ways of working, acquisitions, mergers, whatever it may be. Those big ticket items are really, really expensive and really high risk. And you don't want to be playing them all and not have anything left in reserve. But firing a bullet is not as expensive And firing a bullet allows you to measure where it lands. It allows you to recalibrate slightly. It allows you to then fire another bullet, which is also inexpensive, a new marketing idea, a new little thing, a new trick. It allows you to measure it again by recalibrating the empirical side of it. You fire another bullet and you hit the target. And once you've hit the target once or twice, that's when you take out the cannonball. Your investment in that particular marketing strategy, your investment in terms of an acquisition or a different way of working or a innovation that you want to support and back, and you go after it with your cannonballs. And that's the difference between pure innovation for the sake of it and innovation that hits the mark literally and can change your business. You can also learn from the empirical experience of others. You don't always have to fire your own bullets. You can watch bullets being fired and learn from those around you. Learn from things that have worked and where they've managed to gain some sort of traction. Implement some of that yourself, and then when you hit the mark on some of these different elements, whether they be whatever, social media, video marketing, whatever it may be in your case, then take an investment, put it behind it, and see those returns come in. The third element is productive paranoia, or what's also referred to as leading above the death line. You see, productive paranoia raises that question, what if? What if? What if? What if? What if something comes and is going to affect my company negatively? What if there's a pandemic? What if there's an event that is going to rock my world? Now, 10Xers have productive paranoia. 10Xers prepare as best they can for a negative event that's going to affect them. They almost certainly know that something negative down the line is going to affect them, and what they do is build up reserves. You know, if you were going to summit Mount Everest, would you only take one oxygen tank? Well, hopefully you wouldn't. Hopefully you take a few more, because it's inevitable that something is going to go wrong. 10Xers maintain large margins of safety so that they can withstand events that might come their way, whether that's building of cash reserves or whatever it may be in your case. A company called Intel used to keep 40% of their annual revenues in cash just for events that may come their way. See, most financial theories that you read in books will tell you that it's almost irresponsible to hoard cash, in their deployment of capital. But that only applies in a stable and predictable and safe world. And we're not in any of those. And we never will be in the future either. You can't predict a black swan event that might happen down the line. But you can carry enough oxygen canisters with you to at least survive the event. Now, this global pandemic of the coronavirus has certainly been one of those black swan type events. And I don't know how many companies in different industries were carrying enough oxygen tanks to survive this pandemic. I guess we'll get to see that over the next few months and possibly even years. Just like in the real world, it's more important what you do before the storm that matters most. It depends on how well prepared you are leading up to that big event that's going to determine the outcome. The advice is to zoom out and to look at the picture from above in terms of what your risk profile looks like, and then zoom in and make sure that you put those reserves, those oxygen canisters, those performance markers and measurements and supply tents that Roald Amundsen had. Make sure you put enough of those in place so that when the storm really comes, you've got enough of those reserves to be able to survive. And those that survive these severe storms will not only survive when they're over, they will absolutely thrive, just like the 10X companies and the 10X individuals that have done so over the last many years. Ask yourself the question all the time: what are the consequences of the worst case scenario that may play out? And then put your risk planning in place. get your productive paranoia hat on, and work out how you will operate above the death line. The fourth characteristic of 10Xs is what's known as level 5 ambition. The hunger, the drive, and the willingness inside of that individual to make sure that they make the best use and combination of those three elements: fanatic discipline, empirical creativity, and productive paranoia. Over and above that, 10Xs have a SMAC recipe, SMAC, a simple, methodical, and consistent approach to doing what they do. They do the same thing that you and I do, but they do it well, and they do it over and over and over again. And most of these 10Xs rarely change that SMAC recipe, and at best by less than 15% at any point in time. You see, that SMAC recipe is a clear, concrete list that guides them in terms of what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. More than that, they don't believe in luck. They believe in a return on luck. You see, everyone gets good luck and bad luck. But from their perspective, it's not about the amount of luck you get. It's the return you create from the luck you get. Resilience and not luck is the signature of greatness. So again, I want to encourage you to go and get the book Great by Choice and read it a few times. Dive deep into the pages and make notes for yourself and see how you can apply those elements to your business. Fanatic discipline, empirical creativity, productive paranoia with a level 5 ambition that implements a specific and simple, methodical and consistent approach to doing business so that you can create the return on luck that you and I both need. I look forward to catching you all soon. Cheers.